Hey, folks, welcome back to this episode of the ERP Circle of Excellence, a joint program that has been created between Dynamics Communities, Community Summit North America, Acceleration Economy, and HandsFree ERP. I'm joined in typical fashion by Peter Jekyll, who is with HandsFree ERP, Kenny Mullican, who is CIO of Paragon Films, and Wayne Sadin, CIO of PriceSmart. This continuing series breaks down different steps that you need to go through as you are managing through a modern ERP implementation project, getting it sourced, getting it budgeted, all those sorts of things for not only yourself, but for the teams that you're working with and the partners that you're working with and the like. This crew will also be together at Summit North America, running October 15th to the 20th in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a lot of these things that we're talking about, we're going to have in-person discussions with anybody who wants to tune in, right? So you're welcome to come by our lounge that we're going to have set up, shoot the breeze with any one of us regarding the projects you're working on. Bring your partner with you, bring your team with you, those sorts of things, and we can help you through some of the tough stuff that you're trying to figure out with your ERP modernization. Okay. One of those things that you got to figure out with your ERP modernization project is what the heck you automate, right? We hear all about robotic process automation, hyper automation, intelligent automation, AP automation, GL automation, all of these different things. One thing they all have in common is they are oftentimes removing remedial tasks from processes that run our organizations. Today, that's even starting to move into some knowledge work that's getting replaced with automation that has more intelligence built into it, especially in this AI world that we're starting to live in. Peter, I want to kick things off with you on this one. You know, you've outlined several approaches to applying automation in and through an ERP implementation. Talk about what should and should not be automated from your perspective while somebody's going through one of these modernization of their ERP projects.
Yeah, so my friends, I always tell them I'm an industrial engineer, which is the guys with the clipboards and the stopwatches and the slide rules. And we always time study stuff, to make things faster and more efficient. And 7 or 8 years ago, when Summit was in Tampa, which was before you owned it, John, so the person is not in trouble now. But somebody walked up to me and started selling me AP automation while I was in my booth, which I had paid for. And I was very annoyed by the whole thing because, again, he was selling me and, I had paid for the booth. But he promised to buy me beer, so I listened. So he laid out this entire set of functionality and technology that could take documents, invoices, and automate the whole AP automation process. And my very first initial thought when he went through that, I said, that is absolutely amazing technology. All that really cool stuff to empty your bank account faster. That was literally the reaction I had. But I was really interested in the technology. And so I started studying it and decomposing it into the parts. And what I found out is that AP automation guys have multiplied like rabbits, and there used to be 2 and now there's 10 and then there's 30 and 50, and they always have the big booths, John, at your show, and they have the cushiony carpet with the sales guys, so they must be doing business like crazy, right? But the thing that I thought about was, if this technology can automate that, why not strip that technology out instead of capturing it to do only AP automation, take the technology out, free it to do what I consider are more high-value documents. So the most obvious high-value document to me is getting customer orders into the system. And that's slowly starting to pick up. But that was my first thought. And then to me, there's endless opportunity on the shop floor where you have, lots of manufacturing documents that have to be processed and moved along. And those scream for automation. So my big thing with the automation is everybody has followed the AP automation herd because it seems to be, I don't know, maybe the easiest thing to do. And because other people do it, it's well known. And so you have your little, twist on it. But to me, the fact that it's tied to AP automation, it's often burdened down with somebody's own workflow. So now you've got your ERP workflow and that workflow that you're adding on top of it. None of that stuff make any sense. So to me, what's critical is the engine and applying it to high value documents. And this is something that Kenny and I have talked about multiple times. But definitely, that my biggest take on that topic.
Yeah, so couple of things I want to mention there based on what Peter was just talking through, right? The reason why companies spring up like rabbits, to your point, is because there's a need for the technology, right? Sometimes it's a gold rush and that type of thing, but there's been an obvious need for automation of financial systems within mid-size and enterprise businesses for a number of years. Now the technology is there and it's sort of moving from OCR to ICR, right? And more intelligent content recognition and those sorts of things. And that level of innovation is something that is saving, in some cases, hundreds of thousands, in other cases, millions, in other cases, tens of millions of dollars for organizations by applying those technologies. So, you can sort of make fun of the cushy carpets and the big booths and all those sorts of things, but there's a market for it, right? And therefore, there's a lot of people that want to learn those stories. The second thing that I'd mention is I think the world, while AP automation has been an interesting thing and a powerful thing within the context of an ERP system. Today, you're starting to move to a lot more, Kenny, as you've talked about a fair bit, hyper automation, intelligent automation within the context of business, with organizations that do a lot more than just AP automation, right? But are automating some of those significantly more sophisticated tasks, right? And those sorts of things inside organizations. For you, as we've talked about, managed a very recent cloud ERP move. I'd be interested in a couple of things from your perspective, right? Number one, what did you automate during the implementation to speed things up? And number two, what functions have you automated in the new environment? For example, like we were just talking about accounts payable or what have you. Can you lay a little bit of that out for us?
Sure. So, during the implementation, we found a lot of value in automating the DevOps process, and that was kind of exciting. So as we were going through all of the different pieces of the implementation project, there was a lot of automation happening there that would help move things along automatically. Once someone closed this particular task, it automatically opens up the next task and notifies people. And then as people comment on it, it automatically sends out these notifications. And that whole thing itself helped the implementation project itself. And then, once we got into automating the ERP system, we did AP automation. It was something we'd already done before. It was just kind of a given. It wasn't anything too exciting or that people would write home about, but it was there. But as Peter pointed out, most of the good AP automation packages are only for AP. I mean, once you've done that, it doesn't give you any additional benefit. Those cool workflows that they did or the OCR, it may not even be available to use elsewhere. So what I think is really cool is that with Microsoft's Cloud ERP, Dynamics 365, it's so well integrated with the rest of the Azure stack. So you've got the Power Platform with Power Apps, Power Automate, Logic apps, and these kind of things make it, I don't want to say easy, but much easier and much more intuitive to be able to connect with Dynamics 365 and automate things that are slow and time consuming. So it may very well be that Dynamics 365 does pretty much everything that everybody needs it to do, but it doesn't mean that they make it easy. And we have a little phrase that came out during our implementation that kind of caught on, and that's people call it the magic button. They say, you know what, it takes me so much effort to do this, and I do it again and again, all day, every day. I go through, and sure, it works. It gets all the information in, but it's so many steps, and they're doing the same thing every time. They say, can we have a magic button? We say, yes, you can. And we don't have to do any deep customization to do that. We can do these nice little things that work around D365, but provide automation that bypasses all those manual steps. Maybe even just collects the necessary information that changes each time from them, and then automates all of the back end stuff that sure they could have done by memorizing or creating those task recordings and following them step by step. But if you can automate that for them, then you can start to see that multiply times each user, times each day, times each department, and then you get real benefit. And that's why I get so excited about automation, because this is one of those where you get a real ROI that's real easy to put numbers on. It's real easy to demonstrate the benefits.
being able to demonstrate those benefits through true ROI analysis that are based on hard numbers. Kenny, I've been there before, and to be able to do that with a board, with your leaders, the rest of your leadership team, that is one of those. Those are the times that make all the hard work worth it, right? When you actually get to go through and show some of that stuff off. So I love that point. Anything that you would have done differently, faster, that kind of stuff through some of these decisions, Kenny?
No, I feel pretty good about the way we did it on this one. And so the best recommendation that I can make is don't worry too much about automating early on. Sometimes it's better to wait until people have done it a few times, because sometimes right off the bat, they'll say, oh, this takes too long. This takes me longer than before. It's taking me 3 mouse clicks instead of 1 mouse click. And you're kind of like, yeah, well, okay, 3 mouse clicks. That's still not that much. That doesn't really add up. Or this thing takes me an hour to do, but I only do it once a month. Okay, maybe not really worth automating. But what are the things that after you've used it a while and you've gotten used to it, you can still say, this takes up half my time and there's no real benefit being gained by it. And then you can look at that and say, great, let's put in a little mini project and find some automation that's going to save them half their time, and either give them time to work on something more important or possibly not have to hire more people for that department.
I love it, because you're making those decisions based on the data of their job at that point, as opposed to let's automate it because automation's cool, right? So I really think that's a sound approach, Kenny, and great advice for folks. Wayne, you're right now considering a very large ERP modernization project for your organization. As you start to kind of set your vision and strategy against a lot of this, what are the key functions you will be automating? And do me a favor and please outline a bit on why those are priority from your perspective.
So let's take this discussion up a level and talk about a disconnect in ERPs. Typically, when somebody says we need a new ERP, it's the CFO. They want a new general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable. They want to do this AP automation, all this cool stuff. I got news for you. Nobody makes any money in the accounting department. Nobody makes any money in the IT department. I work for a retailer. We make money by buying, shipping, and selling. Let's automate those things first. So they literally, this is not here, but in general, what should I automate first? Let's put in a new general ledger and accounting. That's kind of easy. How about we automate the hard stuff, the COGS? Think about SG&A and COGS. I focus on the COGS first. Once I get that stuff going, now we've raised top line. We've taken costs out of the middle, which drops to the bottom line. That pays for a whole lot of AP automation. So I think that's the first step, is where are the biggest pain points in getting customers, in keeping customers, increasing margin, increasing customer service. Anything else is noise. So when you've automated those things, you're buying, you're receiving, and you're selling, guess what happens? Your AP automation project goes away. Here's why. Instead of saying, here's a bill, what do I do with it? It's here's a requisition based on sales. Now I generate the requisition. The receiving document comes in the warehouse. They go, click. Yeah, we got what we ordered. The bill comes in. We go, we got what we ordered, and the price is what we thought it was. Click. So if you can digitize the data, the whole process changes dramatically. So that's my advice, is start where the board cares. And quite frankly, accounting often is last. I have bad news for the CFO because they're the ones paying my bill when I'm a consultant. But oftentimes the value is not in the back room, it's in the COGS.
It can be realized in the back room, though, through some of these automation of processes, right? Because you said one of those big things is buying, right? For your organization's buying. You want the best deal in that buying and those sorts of things. Some of those processes are automated to make sure you're getting those best deals. That plays into that going to the middle and dropping to the bottom line element too, right? But to Wayne's point, he's talking about this from, I'm not a big fan of the term digital transformation, right? And those sorts of things, because it's been around so much. But that's what you're talking about, right? You're talking about transforming your business around the things that are most important to the organization, defining an automation strategy against those things, and then letting that waterfall through the organization, because those are the things that keep the lights on.
Absolutely right.
Gang, fascinating conversation. Wayne, biggest tip for folks as they're going through this process themselves right now? What do you want somebody to take away and say, hey, is it the focus on the stuff that the board's most concerned about, or what would you leave folks with as the biggest issue?
So the issue for the working CIO is you can have this vision of an ERP, which takes multiple years and multiple iterations and lots of money. Don't forget today's problems. So my strategy, I call the 4 Ps: prioritize, patch, polish, perfect. Sometimes you got to drop the interim solution, the AP automation in, because we're hiring 50 more people as business group. So don't tell everybody, wait, it will come eventually, or you'll create a terrible shadow IT problem. Solve today's problems on the one hand, while you're working on the big picture on the other hand.
Great advice, Wayne. Kenny, over to you for biggest tip. You kind of explained some pretty good ones there. Didn't know if you wanted to leave everybody with one more.
One other thing to think about in automating is not just saving time, but also looking for opportunities where it can help other types of things. So reducing errors and reducing fraud. So workflow automation in finance can be very valuable to prevent fraud, which, while it may not make the company money, it may keep you from losing a lot of money. So on a risk avoidance perspective, that's one good reason for at least taking a look at finance on the automation side.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially on the mitigation of those risks perspective. Peter, final point from your perspective.
I want to give this an interesting macro perspective. If you believe, as it is probably true, that demographics is destiny, a lot of the people that are working in companies today that do a lot of the work that we need done on a daily basis, what they are doing is retiring out of the workforce. And the base of people replacing them is not this anymore. It's becoming more vertical. And so the more automation that you can do to replace that shrinking workforce, the better positioned you will be to compete in the future.
Yeah, it's a great point. And to that end too, it's also, what do your customers want, right? Like really kind of, do your customers really want a whole bunch of, or your suppliers, right? Do they want a whole bunch of people that they need to talk to get these things done? Or generationally, we've really moved into a self-service model, into a, hey, I want to go through this process digitally to make sure that these things are delivered to me as a customer, are shipped to you as a supplier, and the like. And I think that has to do with the shrinking of those people. It also just has to do with this transition that the world has gone through, right? Just look at the processes that we're starting to apply with generative AI and Copilot from Microsoft and that kind of thing. These are all automating processes that used to have to take an individual, right? A customer service rep or those sorts of things. Anyway, great discussions, gang. Hopefully everybody took some cool insights out of this, some cool ideas, some cool tips from these experts. Gang, please join us October 15 to 20 at Summit North America. We'll be in the ERP Circle of Excellence Lounge, shooting the breeze and chatting with folks about some of these things that we're all dealing with every single day as practitioners and users of these systems. Wayne, Kenny, and Peter, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.